If you're seeing or hearing this, the odds are probably pretty good that you've also already heard the song that I just released. Now, this song, initially very easy to write, and I remember the day that I wrote it. I think the year was 2018. Essentially, the initial sort of spark of it kind of came about in a way that, is kind of humbling for, someone that tends to have like some sort of artistic vision and really sort of, believe in trying to, make that a reality. I remember I was working on some sort of riff. I was messing around on the guitar, trying to figure something out. And when my friend called me and we talked a little bit, and after I got off the phone, I was like, that riff why am I even bothering with that? And I just started playing the first thing that I could think of. And the first thing that I thought of when I went back to play was the riff for Could I Stay Here? Not the lead riff, but the main sort of, chord changes. That's just what happens, I guess, when, you kind of let go sometimes, you just kind of allow things to happen. If I would have kept on trying to force that riff, I may not have gotten this song out of it, With all that being said, the initial idea is pretty disparate from the finished product. And you hear that and you probably think, oh, like that's probably a pretty common thing. For me, it's less common these days. At that time, I wasn't really a knowledgeable or really experienced producer. I actually tracked the original demo of this song on a Fostex MR16. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's a hardware recorder. It's a digital hardware recorder. Actually a pretty cool piece of gear, 16 tracks, and you can do quite a bit of stuff with it. But that's what I had the most experience with at the time. I'm not even sure that I had like a proper computer with like a proper DAW or what have you. So I just, plugged in my acoustic. Well, I didn't plug it in, I don't think. I think I actually mic'd it up. I don't remember. Long story short, it was a very, kind of felt, meant to be or something like that when I was writing it. And it just happened really easily. I didn't overthink anything about it. And I think it just felt like it was like fun to play. I just started having fun with it in terms of adding stuff to the original idea. And so I'll play a little clip of that now. So you can kind of hear, how far this thing has really come along in the last almost 5 years.
We want to take it slow. Forgive me, my mind is racing. We want to take it slow. Forgive me if I'm impatient. I'm all alone and looking for a home. Would you wait here? You should know I've loved you all along. Could I stay here? Songs I wrote, each letter, every note.
So if you know me, or really, I feel like even if you just listen to my music and you don't know me personally, then, I feel like it's not very difficult to decipher what some of my bigger influences are. And specifically with this tune in particular, Could I Stay Here? One of my main influences came out pretty strong. And, I think to some degree, this influence comes out pretty strong almost any time I'm writing on an acoustic guitar. And that influence is, of course, Dashboard Confessional. The actual rhythm and the cadence of this song, it's just all downstrokes. So, I kind of wanted to add a little flavor from a different sort of, I guess, style of rock. And so I thought about the acoustic version of Hands Down by Dashboard Confessional. And, you may not really pick up on it unless you really listen to this song. I think it's towards... Actually, no. I know exactly what it is. It's it's in the final section of the song. So after the second chorus, and Chris Carrabba is, I don't know, he's like putting a bow on this thing, right? You can hear, I think you'd probably be in your right ear. There are acoustic guitars basically acting as snare drums to sort of supplement another percussive element in the mix. Chris is doing all these downstrokes, but you can hear on the sides, you know, that dun 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 dun. So in the demo, that's what I decided to do. That technique, I guess, is what you would say, and apply it to this demo. I'm not really sure how well known the acoustic version of Hands Down is. I know that Hands Down had a moment on MTV radio with the full version from A Mark, a Mission, a Brand, a Scar. I think that's the record. But you know, the original version of Hands Down was on the So Impossible EP, and that was the first Dashboard record that I ever bought. It's the one that I could afford. So I want to play a little bit of that for you, and then we'll dive into the sort of next sort of big thing. I think at this point in the story, we're probably, you know, we can probably talk about when I came to the point of actually performing this song. You know, I was hosting an open mic on a weekly basis back in Florida, and so I was getting the opportunity to, you know, play quite a bit and really just, you know, test things out. And so, you know, I was playing this song, or this raw acoustic version of this song out probably once a week for, you know, a good while. You know, at a certain point, I was like, I had tested it enough, and people let me know. They were like, that's great, like, do it, you know. So I decided to actually take it from, you know, a demo version to a real deal, you know, recording. A friend offered to help me do that. So, you know, we went in. I was pretty dead set on not having drums. I was like, no, it's just going to be an acoustic thing and it'll just be cool. But there was a drum set in the studio, and, you know, essentially I got talked into doing it just to see, just for funsies. And at that point, you know, it was pretty obvious. It was like, oh, okay, this is actually like, this is a song, like a full band song. I just didn't know it before we started making it happen. I think I still wanted to include the supplementary percussion with the acoustic guitars acting as like snare drums. But, you know, we had a snare drum, we had a drum kit, you know, so once we got to that point, I kind of knew. I was like, oh, this is kind of strokesy a little bit, but it's still me singing, and there's still that Dashboard Confessional influence. I don't know about you. I'm not sure that I've ever heard. Well, okay, there is that one song on Come Down Machine that has acoustic guitar in it, but other than that, is that an acoustic guitar? I don't know. It almost sounds like they just put a mic up to a Telecaster. Not a lot of acoustic guitar in Strokes records, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I guess I just found that to be sort of an interesting, I don't know if I'd say juxtaposition. That might be too strong of a word, but just an interesting combination of things. Because Chris Carrabba is such an earnest, hard on your sleeve kind of songwriter, and, you know, Julian Casablancas is, you know, he's always kind of been like about swagger. But I thought maybe it would be interesting to combine those two attitudes more so than just the sounds. Not sure if that really comes across in the record, but that was kind of my thinking behind that, you know, because ultimately, like, the sound of anything is really just like the end product of a bunch of small decisions that a group of people made. And, you know, so that ultimately does reflect those people's attitudes towards the craft. So at this point, we have a full band sounding record. Ultimately, what kind of happened with that whole thing is, we never really finished it. I had every intention of finishing it, but some other people that were involved just, got busy or whatever. So had to put it on hold. But I still had this demo, and I still knew that I wanted to complete this song. So my friend Justin Moore, who has done some mastering work for me, and we just, we've been friends for a while. He had a little studio space out in Panama City. I don't remember when exactly. I think this was actually in 2019 when we did this. But, we ended up just... I don't remember when I asked him or why. I think we talked about working together before this, and we just eventually were like, all right, let's actually do it. You know how it is sometimes, it's like... but that's kind of the benefit. That is one of the pros of living in a small town or a smaller area. People are maybe more, you're going to see them. You know that you're going to catch them around again, like all the time. So it's like, you guys might as well just get it over with, get the hang session over with. So that full band version with the drums, the first version of that, it got bailed on. I'll just move on, do it somewhere else. And so that's what Justin and I did. And so we essentially just recreated the same track, and we tracked everything the same way. But then we got to a point where I started laying the lead guitar on. I think Justin, he goes, if I remember correctly, I don't remember what he said, but I think the sentiment was like, yeah, I think that guitar sounds like a little boring or something. I'm not really sure, but I think he was right. I didn't have a lot of options for effects at the time. I was playing this like rip-off like Telecaster, and all I had was like a Boss DD20, and I brought this little Ibanez acoustic amp. And if you know anything about acoustic amps, they normally have some pretty badass sounding chorus effects. And you can't really dial them in usually, but you can kind of just turn it on and kind of tweak the intensity of it, essentially, or the depth or whatever it is. And so that's what I ended up trying. I think initially I was going straight into this like pretty badass preamp that Justin had. I don't remember what it was called. But I think we just ended up miking up this little acoustic amp because it had this badass chorus sound on it. And literally, as soon as we did a take with the chorus on the electric, we stopped it and we were just like, well, yeah, that's it. Like, there's nothing else to figure out. We got it. At that point, I think I kind of realized like I was actually having to reverse engineer like what this song is, or like what this song is made up of, or something like that. This is one of the rare instances where I didn't hear it all in my head first, right? Typically, I'll hear it all in my head first. That's just how my musical mind works. I'll just hear something, and that is what I refer to as my vision, right? I'm sure I don't really have to I don't have to mull over that sort of in detail for you to get what I mean, but that's what I call my vision, my musical or artistic vision, right? And typically I'll hear something in my head, and then I'll be like, okay, how do I make that happen in real life? This song didn't happen like that. It was a lot of serendipity. Is that actually a word? Serendipity? I guess that is a word. Wow, I'm stupid. Oh, God. Yes, there were some serendipitous moments, It was like a weird... It just sort of unfolded. Things just sort of unfolded, and I was like... At this point, I think I realized that the song... Ultimately, what it was supposed to be, like, in its like, the spirit of it, is almost like a like a less androgynous version of like a Robert Smith like B-side, or maybe something, not to like, you know, be too self-deprecating, but, you know, maybe something Robert Smith would write and then never do anything with because he just had better shit to do. The reason I say that is because, you know, before I realized that it could have this aesthetic, this sort of sheen on top of this sort of meat and potatoes sort of thing. The two core elements were these really kind of very macho, like dashboard, impassioned, just crazy fucking vocal delivery. And then the Strokes obviously is, you know, fucking simple rock songs with badass guitar solos and like a dude that sounds like a, you know, a punk rock Sinatra rolls eyes. Anyway, you know, so at this point I was like, okay, yeah, we can do, it's a vibe, right? I wonder how many times I can say it's a vibe until I get a ticket. That should be like a thing, like in all studios, in all recording studios, there should be like a vibe jar where every time somebody says the word vibe, you got to put $1 in the fucking vibe jar. It should be illegal. How many times motherfuckers will say vibe in a recording studio? Like, bro, you're right. And there is no other way. I mean, there are other ways, but it's the simplest way to get to that, to get where we're going, is just say vibe. Pretty much. In any case. So, yeah, long story short, you know, we had these first two dimensions that were fairly macho. And then third dimension, essentially, was the sort of thing that finally unlocked for me, like, what the identity of this song is, or was, or whatever. Well, do I have anything more to say about this song? As a matter of fact, I do have a little bit more to say. First, I want to say thanks again for, or I don't even know if I said thanks in the first place at the beginning of the episode, but if I didn't, thank you for being here and watching and giving my show a chance. By proxy, that means you've probably listened to my new song already, so thank you for that. I also want to say thanks to Hunter West for engineering and mixing the track. Thanks to Sam Moses for mastering the tune. And thank you to Wavy Kurt for your excellent film photography skills and for the cover photo and the other photos that I've been using for other stuff. You also might be noticing that the background here is different in this shot as opposed to the rest of the episode. It's because since I started filming Loose Talk episodes, I moved. This is the new pad. Welcome. Thanks again. I'm going to leave you with Just Like Heaven by The Cure. Tune in to the next episode for sure. I'm going to be talking about vibraphones and how they're underused in popular music. And I'll show you some of my favorite songs with vibraphone in them. Be sure to like, subscribe, drop a emoji, hit follow. Yeah, all that annoying stuff. Okay, see you next time. Peace.